Welcome back. Daily Show, 9:15, a little bit of change. We are getting closer to the primary day. And Kurt Prenzler joins us in the studio now, challenging Linda Andreas for County Clerk on the Republican side of the ticket. And, Kurt, how are we doing this morning, first and foremost?
I am doing great. It feels like we're in Florida. What is it, 28 degrees or 30? It feels like it's 60 or 70.
That's what I said. Going on 70, it feels like. Well, it's been a little bit since you've been, in the public eye, so to speak, with running for office. And what leads up to, I guess, diving right in, the decision to run for this position?
Well, first of all, the county clerk's office is very important. The county clerk is in charge of elections. The county clerk is also in charge of really the first person to see all the tax levies. So there's a property tax component. And then the third thing is just generally transparency that's important, which is lacking. So I actually helped get this county clerk elected, the first Republican county clerk in many years. And she made two big promises. Number one, to be pro-taxpayer. She didn't keep that promise. She also promised to clean up the election process. She didn't keep that promise. So I'm going to explain first her two broken promises. She promised to be pro-taxpayer. She promised to support letting citizens vote on PTEL tax caps here in the county. And our property taxes continue to be number one. And there's one thing we could do as a county we have not done. And I put it before the county board 4 times, and they did not enough Republicans. Again, they're Republicans and they're Republicans, and I'm a real Republican. Okay, and so enough Republicans joined with Democrats to keep property tax extension limitation law off the ballot. It's my proposition that property tax caps, the citizens should be able to vote on that. And what would that do? That would limit every district from increasing their levy to the lesser of 5% or the CPI, the inflation rate.
Well, and to go into that, what does that mean for the taxpayer a little bit more, overall? What would we see the benefit of, capping that or having that proposition on the ballot and it gets voted for?
Well, it's not uncommon to see property tax districts increase their levy, how much they want, by 15%, 20%. We've seen that. And there's just no limit in Madison County, where in counties in Illinois where they have PTEL, they're limited to increase that levy by the lesser of 5%. Yeah. So there are other benefits to that too. Stopping what we would call the backdoor referendum, which is a sneaky way to raise property taxes. But as an example of this, and I was told about this, that the Bethalto School District officials arranged a meeting with the county clerk with a specific purpose on how they could maximize their tax levy. And citizens learned about that, and they wanted to take part in that meeting, and she refused to do that. So that's my case. She has been not pro-taxpayer in that respect.
Okay.
I will be, and I have a good record in that respect. Number 2, election management. And this is a very important issue, and this is hard to talk about numbers when you're talking, through the media and the radio. But back in 2013, well, let me start. Madison County has a decreasing population. In 2010, we had a census that said 269,000 people. That was the peak of our population in 2010. Today, it's about 8,000 less.
Wow.
261,000. Now, she has let the voter rolls, which means the number of registered voters, go very, very high. And why is that? So when in 2013, I remember when I was part of an effort to gather over 20,000 signatures, we needed 10% of the total number of registered voters. And the total number of registered voters in 2013 was 176,000. So again, population in 2010, 269,000. Today, 8,000 less. So number of registered voters in 2013, 176,000. Today, the number of registered voters on the list, the voter roll in Madison County is 192,000. That's 16,000 more. Now, how does that make sense? Now, at the Republican meeting 3 or 4 months ago, she stood up in a Republican meeting at the Edwardsville Gun Club and said, well, I know I need to trim the voter rolls by about 8,000, but, it's taken me some time to learn my job. She really said that. She said, I know I need to trim the voter rolls by about 8,000, but it's taken me some time to learn my job. Well, why 8,000? She didn't explain. And again, this is the responsibility under Illinois law there are different verbs you use. Clean the voter rolls, manage the voter rolls, trim the voter rolls, purge the voter rolls. Some of them sound really bad, like purging the voter rolls.
Purge sounds terrible.
Yes, it does. But when you have people on the voter rolls who are, okay, and then after that Republican meeting, about a week later, she had a press release with the coroner with her picture in the paper saying, well, I've decided to work with the coroner to make sure that people who have died in 2023, 24, and 25 are taken off the voter rolls. Well, why do you wait until you're running for re-election to do that? So this is a really important responsibility, and this is Illinois state law, that county clerks are responsible for cleaning, trimming, managing, purging the voter rolls to make sure we don't have people on the voter rolls who have moved out of the county, et cetera.
Well, and honestly, nationwide, there's been a lot of that where you're seeing databases getting cleaned and voter rolls being cleaned up. For this, though, is there, and only the reason I'm asking is I don't know the ins and outs, is there a deadline that a county clerk must hit to have submit a new voter, a voter registration or voter database to the state or any election board?
Well, one of the things that I believe in terms of managing government is benchmarking. And so I've been over to St. Louis County, which is the largest county in Missouri by population, a little bit less than 1 million. They have had very stable, what I did is a comparison. They've had, their population has been a little bit under 1 million. It's been very stable from 2010 to present for 15 years. Also, their voter rolls, very stable. What I observed over there, and this was on November 10th, they had a hand count audit of their paper ballots after they had a special election on November 5th. I think that's a good thing. I'm a CPA. I'm really drilled in on accuracy, and I think to audit is an important, like State Farm says, discount double check. There's nothing wrong with the discount double check. And I think that this would do something like this, but this, to let the voter rolls get out of control, and I have not seen this elsewhere as I've looked at other counties, and I can tell you that in St. Louis County, their population has been stable, their voter rolls have been stable. I said, what do you do every day? They said, we work on this every day. Yeah. We work on keeping track of people that are moving out with the post office. We make sure that we keep track of obituaries and other things like this. So every day. Well,
and it's really important to get those insights too, and just how you would approach the situation. And it leads in. You said you helped get the current county clerk elected into her position. Is there any trepidation of going back out there and saying, hey, I know I helped support her, but this isn't what I like to see? Have you heard any of those conversations yet, or any pushback of why now, or why did you push her up to begin with if there was these issues? And that's the only reason I ask, because I do find that a fascinating comment.
Well, I supported her because of promises that she made. Yeah. She promised to be pro-taxpayer. She promised to support property tax caps, and she promised to clean up the election process. And frankly, I think as far as letting the voter rolls get out of control, I think she just hasn't really shown up for work. And that's what her employees say, that she has a dress shop, or had during the past years, that where she sells pre-owned women's clothing, and that really occupied most of her time. So I don't think she really did the work. Now, let me say, I'm committed to accuracy. When she submitted her petitions for re-election, she had the wrong date of the election on the petitions. And she also had petitions from Mike Babcock, who's running, mixed in with her petitions. Very sloppy. Now, the county clerk's position, they need to be accurate. Now, today in Madison County, we combined the recorder's office and the county clerk's office. But what is one of the underlying responsibilities of a county clerk? That's to be accurate, to record births, deaths, marriages, and then deeds and mortgages and these sorts of things in the recorder's office. So accuracy, daily work, every day, like chopping wood. But it's important. Accuracy is very important. For example, just properly recording deeds. That's the most important investment most people have in their whole portfolio.
True. Well, and that's where I do find the position is so important, and that's why we've already had the county clerk on, in December, and it's great to have you on, because you're right. It's not, the most exciting office in terms of, the glitz and glamour, but it's the most important, and it needs to be in that machine mindset, and it's very fascinating.
Yeah, CJ, one of the reasons I'm running is it hit me a couple of years ago. A farmer northeast of Edwardsville said to me, "Kurt, I appreciate what you've done with property taxes, but if we don't have honest elections, we don't have a country." Now, I'm not making any allegations, but what I'm saying is that we need to really lean into transparency. I think many people don't trust the election process, and what better way to increase people's trust in the election process than to do something like what they do over in St. Louis County, where they take 5% of the precincts, and they select those randomly, and they well, let me just give you another example. And what they do is a hand count paper audit. But here's another example of transparency. For example, why would she have a meeting with the Bethalto school officials to raise taxes and not let the citizens participate? Transparency. Let people see what's going on. I don't think this is such a big issue in Alton these days, but in Troy, particularly, there's been a lack of transparency in their city government as they've approached this data center. We see this all over St. Louis. In fact, we saw such a low level of transparency. We're really over in the city of St. Charles, Missouri. The city council and the mayor were making their deal, without really making it public. And what happened is that the city of St. Charles said, okay, we're going to have a 1-year moratorium. Let's stop, because we've got to bring these things into the light so that the citizens can find out what's going on. We've got a similar situation going on right now. Tomorrow night, I think it's in one of the, maybe the high school in Triad High School in Troy. They're going to have a big public hearing. But what we saw is citizens in Troy used the Freedom of Information Act process to see emails, and the development director sent an email. It's pretty funny, actually, on November 3rd and November 7th. And she was sending an email to the 3 executives in the data center company, the data center developer. And essentially she said, pretty much, yippee, no one came to the public hearing. Well, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. A city official should not be happy about a lack of transparency.
Well, and I think that's the biggest part of this right now is when it comes to the whole data center thing, or really any type of issue or any development, it's not really a yes or no. Whatever the public decides is what the public decides, right? I can't make up my mind for the majority of people, just like not a lot of us can.
Sure.
So, to have these, and I get where you're coming from, to have these things talked about, to if the public says, no, this is perfect for our area, we want it, or, in collaboration with county officials, say this is great, or city officials, but it's just having, that out there and not having to be found.
Well, let me lean into the property tax area too. So the first one is the election management. The second one is property taxes. It's a problem. And what we've seen recently, we've seen it in the Triad, the Troy Public Schools, on April 1st of 2025. So not even a year ago, there was an election. And the school district used taxpayers' money, district money, to send out postcards telling people all the great things about the $99 million bond issue, that would be repaid with higher property taxes. And Then there was a lawsuit that I helped with, and we went before the county clerk, or not the county, but the court in Madison County, and it was a criminal statute that said, public school officials should not be doing politics on school time, on paid time, and they shouldn't be using district money. But we went before the judge, and he said, "I'm sorry, this is a criminal statute." Because we were not asking that anyone would get fined or go to jail. We just didn't want the bonds to be issued. But indeed, he said, no, I can't help you because this is a criminal statute. And so how do we monitor our local government? And I will tell you, I've seen it again and again and again. People get elected to an office. And they come on as a citizen, and they think of like we the taxpayers, but then give them a few months and they're thinking, we the school board members, we need more money. And so it's so easy to raise taxes. Yeah. And we see this, of course, we see all kinds of problems in government and wasting money and not paying attention, like we've seen the daycares in Minnesota. But this is the one thing that I have a good record. As county chairman, I reduced our tax levy in the county government from $32.6 million down to $30.8, and I kept it there for 8 years. Okay, so this is something that. Why do we always need to be raising taxes? And I wanted to be a good example. I was a good example, and I will be. And the county clerk's office is the first place that county government sees tax increases coming from school districts and other districts and bond issues and this sort of thing. So that's an area where I can be transparent.
Why don't we do that? It's a great conversation so far, and I appreciate your time. It's 9:32. We're going to come back with more of this great conversation. Republican candidate for county clerk. Now, is it county clerk / recorder on the ballot?
County clerk and recorder.
Okay, I wanted to make sure because you just never know. I've been getting called out for a lot of this nitpicky stuff lately. And we'll come back with more Daily Show. You stay there, and we'll be back in the studio.
Do you need to declutter your space? Time to call me, the Queen of Junk. Since 1993, we have grown to be the leader in residential, commercial, and property management junk removal. At Sparks Junk Removal, we are eco-friendly. We recycle, donate, or repurpose items back into our community. Trash is our last resort to the landfill. Plus, with our all-inclusive service, our crews handle everything from labor to lifting and landfill fees. Give us a call or visit our website, sparksjunkremoval.net, to reclaim your space today.
At Alton Elite Jiu-Jitsu, we help students of all ages build confidence, discipline, and real-world strength. Join a supportive community that challenges you to grow both on and off the mat. Experience the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a 7-day free trial at our new location. Call 618-795-2692 or visit altonelite.com to start your journey today. Train hard, serve others, live elite at Alton Elite Jiu-Jitsu.
Tomorrow isn't built by dreamers. It's built by doers. Because progress doesn't work unless we do. So at Ameren, we've been hard at work putting energy to work for you. Adding underground cables, installing advanced switches and sensors, storm hardening poles and power lines, making the energy grid stronger today so it can meet your needs tomorrow. Learn about projects in your area at Amarin.com/energyfuture.
Accidents happen in a heartbeat, but lives change forever. Whether it's a car crash, workplace injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you don't have to face the consequences alone. Keith Short and Associates brings over 33 years of experience and a reputation for fighting fiercely for your rights. For relentless representation that you can trust, call Keith Short and Associates at 618-254-0055 today for a free consultation. Welcome back. Daily Show, 9:35, a little bit of change. Back in with Kurt Prenzler, former County Board Chairman and now running for Republican candidate for County Clerk and Recorder, on that same line that we'll be seeing on the primary ballot too. And, you know, with that position consolidating into one, take me through really what work you're going to look to do, because I know county clerk is something we all know about, but the recorder side, you know, is a little bit unheard of, I think, for some people that are voters out there. Is there anything that you see from the consolidation of those offices that helps you if you're elected with this job?
Well, I was active in the county when the county made the decision to put that on the ballot. And what the county did is the voters voted to consolidate those offices. They were individual offices. And so now both offices, the recorder's office and the county clerk's office, is under one person, one elected official, the county clerk and recorder. I do have a background in real estate. I think the recorder's job is to do things accurately, obviously, and to then work with the title insurance companies and the real estate community, and just to make sure that everything is completely accurate and protected.
Does it streamline things to have it under one office?
I think that there were two elected officials, and the county made the decision that they could save money by having both offices under one official. Perfect. So now what I did when I was treasurer, when I was elected treasurer in 2010, I promised to reduce the cost of the office by 30% in 30 days. I did it in 60 days. Now, I'm not making that promise today in the county clerk's office, only because I think, first of all, I do not waste money. Everyone knows that I'm very pro-taxpayer. But I would have to, what I did at that time is I looked at other treasurers' offices to see how they were able to run. And I determined that we didn't need as much staff. Now, I'm not making those promises. I would have to study that further. But I do think that back to the biggest issues are election integrity and also property taxes. And that's what people really don't know about the county clerk's office. You think of the county clerk as in charge of, birth records and death and marriage records and also the election. But also the county clerk, believe it or not, calculates the taxes.
Right.
And I really shudder to think what it was like before computers.
Oh, yeah. That would have been tough.
Yeah. When you just had pencils and big green sheets of paper, I really don't know. I think I talked to Congressman Shimkus, who was county treasurer from 1990 to 1996. And I think he was at kind of the end of that era where they were, was it, no, wait a minute, was it, I'm sorry, 2010. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the dates. But anyway, he was, I think it was back in the 90s. And that's when they still had some of the big sheets of green paper. And
what are, and this is where I find it fascinating too, of course, to be in this more efficient era and having the technology, but also from your position to go from, you were just board chairman not too long ago, and you're still active in the political scene. And, have you had these conversations with board members or county officials, admin about, a potential, what this could look like if you do win in the primary or just your run?
Well, I think that our present county clerk, the reason she was elected is because she said, I'm going to operate as a Republican, and I'm going to be pro-taxpayer, and I'm going to really lean in and really check and double check the election process, and she's done neither. She has not kept her promises, and I think that's a disappointment that I hear from a lot of Republicans.
And well, and one final, and this isn't a gotcha thing, but just for a Republican-minded voter that's voting in Madison County, is there any trepidation ever? And I'm not speaking out of turn with someone going, well, Kurt or Mr. Kurt, you just were the county board chairman. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is what does it look like if you go back and your opponent that beats you in the primary is the county. Is there any animosity there? Does it keep the Republican Party strong? Is really the
I think there are Republicans and there are Republicans. I think if we look at the state level, the national level, the county level, you have to look beyond the label. And the difference in the county clerk's office or in another official is that elected official is in charge of that office. Yeah. And so if I were elected, I would be in charge of that office, and my task would not be to really nose around in other people's business, but there's enough to do in the county clerk's office, and it requires a lot of hard work and that's something I've done in the past.
And I didn't mean that as a got you question either, but just something that might be on the minds. And as we're wrapping up, let's say everything goes well in March. Maybe it's because I'm uninformed. I don't know if there is a Democratic challenger for county clerk.
There is.
Is there? Okay, I'll have to get him on the show. I just haven't seen.
It's a her.
Oh, I have to get her on the show. Sorry,
Okay.
but I just haven't had much information sent my way on the Democratic side of things yet. But let's say the primary goes well. You're the Republican nominee. You're spearheading into November. Everything goes well, you win. What's the first 60 days look like? What's the first year look like? I know you can't give us a day on cutting taxes or getting rid of all this overspending, or if there is any, but do you have a game plan going in of what the first couple of months would look like?
Well, I would say listening and learning. Okay. I know what my goals are. I know that, first of all, it's very important that we have fairness for all concerned, Republicans and Democrats, really. And this is something, we have fairness in our system, whether you are, let's just say, the calculation of taxes and everything. That's why, and it's a good thing. People should be treated fairly, regardless of their race, religion, or creed, or party affiliation. So that is true in elections. And I think there have been problems with the current county clerk. Recently, she tried to move the early voting location from the Collinsville Senior Center to the Laborers Union Hall in West Collinsville. That was a partisan decision, a pro-Democrat decision, very confusing. A lot of Republicans were very upset. And of course, then, because it had been at the Collinsville Senior Center, which is, in my opinion, the two best senior centers in the county are Alton Senior Plus and Alton and Collinsville Senior Center. And it had been there for years and years, and she made that decision, which I think was a partisan decision. Again, there was a lot of pressure, then a lot of complaints, and she decided not to do it. But everyone was pretty shocked with that idea.
Absolutely. And, Kurt, thank you so much for your time today. Anything else before we say so long before we talk again?
No, it's nice and warm here today, and I'm really enjoying it.
It's about time. At 9:43, we'll put a write-up on RiverBender.com. Primaries coming up, and we'll keep you updated every step of the way on candidate profiles and ways to keep you in the loop. We'll take a quick break, come back, wrap up the 9 o'clock hour after this.